Hey everyone, welcome to Legion Chalk Talk. This is Scott, and today I have my good friend Brian Bender with us. And quick disclosure, Brian actually works for Level Method, which is a really cool story in and of itself. So, how you doing today, bud?
Doing awesome. Thanks
So,
for having me on.
yeah, I'm pumped. I was really excited to talk with you. We actually talk every week, but I was excited to actually get it on film. It's always interesting. Um, I remember our very first conversation like really vividly. I don't know if you do, but for some reason, that conversation we had at the Two Brain Summit, what was it, 2.5 years ago?
Yeah, Two Brain Summit, June. Yeah, it must have been 2018.
Yeah. So I remember it really vividly and talking through some of the things. So let's step back. Why don't you kind of give our listeners an idea of what that was, who you are, and get us rolling here.
Yeah, so well, you want me to jump right into that discussion?
Sure.
All right. So those of you guys that know, some of you guys don't know, the Two Brain Conferences is a place for a gym owner to go to really grow and their brains kind of on fire because there's a lot of stuff that's going on in the presentations and you're in this creative mode and you really want to do cool stuff. So I'm in that mode, of course. And I actually, this particular year was still at CrossFit Illumin. That was before they went to the big hotel and stuff like that. But I had brought two of my coaches with me. They were in the other room. I was in the main room. And I just start kind of walking by the Level Method. And I'm like, okay, you know me, I'm like pretty skeptical. So I'm like, I could do that. I
Right.
pretty much did that 3 years ago. And we hear that all the time, of course, now. But yeah, and I remember just meeting you, and I do remember this conversation very well, and just kind of picking your brain. And it was like, maybe at first I was like challenging a little bit, but then your responses were like, and I was like, oh, well, that makes too much sense. So then I have my coach watch Nathan's presentation in the other room, and I'm like, all right, tell me what you think. And my coach comes back and he's like, this is the best thing ever. How could you not do it? And I'm like, well, it's $1,000. And it's like, that's a lot of money to a gym owner. But then you start thinking about all the things it could do for you. Because when you look at the map, you start thinking about what the Level Method is. All these light bulbs go off. Some of them are the same light bulbs, and some of them are specific light bulbs to your facility. But that, I'm pretty sure, is intended to happen to the gym owner. And I'm like, well, this is too good. I have to do it. Take my money.
I was very eager to take your money. That's awesome. Yeah. So that was over 2 years ago. You had a CrossFit facility in Colorado, and you're still in Colorado, and your situation has changed. You've made some pivots in your own business. Um, so let's walk through a little bit of like what happened as you brought Level Method back. What was some of the real big parts of that really kind of gave you a little extra leverage, or did you have any extra leverage using it?
Well, it wasn't exactly how I thought it was going to be. So when I looked at it, I was like, holy crap, this is the best system ever. This is finally what I need to get my clients to give a crap about their performance. So that was kind of the first thought, which is good, right? Because if you have the right mindset, if you do right by your clients, you get really good results, then of course your business is going to grow. But it kind of came to fruition more when I got back, and I, after implementation and all this stuff, I'm like, okay, I'm definitely going to use it at my goal review sessions, but I had to kind of overhaul my system as I had been using it. And the reason was, for those of you guys that have been around 2015, 2016, if you threw out a Facebook ad with you or one of your female members scratching their butt and you put a bunch of check marks about all the benefits of your 6-week challenge, you could literally have a line out your door. And that's what we had. And it was, that marketing was so good that we doubled in size. It's what led to all that kind of stuff. And it was great. And then Facebook changed their algorithm and it wasn't easy anymore. And all of a sudden the cost per lead jacked way up. And I found out that I didn't truly understand how to use that tool in the first place. But when you're, when you're doing mentoring, you're paying attention to your metrics all the time. And Two Brain uses funny names for ACV. They use arm and leg, which is average revenue per member, and length of engagement. And, you know, depending on whether or not you've done Two Brain, there's different ways to say that. Anyway, looking at mine and really analyzing this, if we could get a member past the 3-month mark, they were going to stay unless they had to move or some, you know, crazy thing happened. They were pretty much stuck with us. We would retain them. So what was happening before 3 months? And with 6-week challenges, there's a ton of people falling through the cracks, no matter how good you think you're doing. So we overhauled the entire beginning system. We stuck with personal training for the first 5 sessions, but the difference was after the 5th session, you had to do a check-in with me or one of the other coaches. And it wasn't like a sales encounter. It wasn't to like sell personal training or something like that. It was literally just a prescriptive, this is what you should do now. We're going to check in again at day 45. So we did the check-in right after that, day 45 check-in, and then a third at day 90. At each check-in, we would go over where they're at with the level method. And that usually would lead to certain questions, and it was predictable based on the check-in session. So during the first check-in, if it's not a personal training client and they're going to class, they can't wait to go to class. The questions are like, how many days per week should I go? This is all really standard stuff. So you give them all that. You know, normally they're going to start 3 or 4 days a week. At the 45-day check-in, though, it's been long enough that they realize they're weaker at something. Upper body pull is one of the top ones for females, for example, and they want a pull-up. So you say, what is your level right now? It's yellow 3. Okay, how about 5 personal training sessions with me, or some clinic I have coming up, or whatever your prescription is. Could be an accessory program after class. Whatever that thing is, that member just asked to do extra in your gym. So now all you have to do is follow up. And holy crap, just having a face-to-face meeting, prescribing something, and having a really cool, colorful app is wildly engaging, and it keeps them around longer. And our retention for that 3-month mark, after I figured it out, right? Level method was part of this system. It went off the charts. It skyrocketed. It was no longer the hole that we had to work on.
That's amazing. So retention past that magic, it's kind of that magic mark so many people talk about. Like if we can get them here consistently for 3 months, 90 days, whatever you want to call it, they will be kind of bought into us, and they'll have breathed the air that we breathe, and they won't want to go. I've heard this over and over and over and over again, and I was in the same shoes when I owned my affiliate. So obviously you didn't run out of the gates saying, I'm going to have these goal setting sessions and they're going to include level method. So how long did it take you to kind of refine that? And then do you find, do you think you would have had the same success without level method had you been using that?
So you go down the trail of the 90-day journey and you start using, there's different web apps and stuff to fill this thing out. And you put in your head what would be this awesome 90-day journey, and including giving them swag and stuff like that at certain checkpoints. And that's all cool. But what really wins is the face-to-face. Level method was huge just because it gives them a framework and it gives you something more to talk about. So I've done goal reviews all along, but when I first opened my gyms, in 2013, I would meet with the client and it'd be like, well, what do you want to work on? I don't know. What do you think I should work on? Well, you should probably work on this. Oh, I guess I'll work on that. But when you have, as stupid as it sounds, when you just associate a color with that thing, all of a sudden it means more to the athlete and they care more and they actually want to do what you say rather than just, well, I guess I'll work on my running on the weekends. No, you need to work on running on the weekends because you're yellow 1 and you're red 5 in front squat. There's a big disconnect.
Right. Yeah. So you were able to sell personal training sessions basically by showing them a weakness and them saying, what do I do? In my understanding, they pretty much sold it themselves. You just had to kind of swoop in and say, here you go.
I didn't go into any goal review with the intention of selling anything. However, using Gym Avatar and all this kind of stuff, I already had all the stuff lined up if they asked.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'd say 1 out of 10 resulted in some upsell, but the other 9 out of 10 were just a check-in with the member, which is huge for retention. It's a face-to-face. And I did it on Zoom too, pre-COVID, before it was cool.
I don't know that it's cool. So so the check-in, I think there's a big point there. When you check in with somebody, what are some of the things that you would kind of dig into to make sure that you were connecting and really kind of getting them to think about what they wanted?
So from the very first day, they're whatever you guys call it. We have our free intro.
Start,
They
yeah,
are gonna tell you why they're there. So it's constantly reviewing that, and that's going to evolve over time. But as you get to know them more, obviously, you're going to get to know their kids. You're going to ask about their kids and their husband or their wife and what all this stuff. But you always have in your notes why they started in the first place. And usually after 3 to 6 months, that's going to evolve and it's going to be a different thing. Like they just want to see their abs or whatever. It's going to turn into something else. But as long as you take notes on that and you kind of always start with their why, you can bring them back in, and starting with their why goes a little bit deeper in their emotion. And that's really how you can help them deep down, right? It's not to show them the coolest way to squat, but why is squatting going to help with the thing that you told me you wanted help with?
right. Yeah. So it's paying attention to like the no sweat intro or the free intro or whatever it's called, paying attention to what those pain points are. I would hope that every gym is digging into that. Like, why are you here? No, really, why? What are some goals? What's the better future you see, right? By joining us, because that's really a great way to frame it. It's like, okay, so you're saying if you get what you want, this will be your heaven. This will be the upside. And then always tapping back into that, super important. So you saw, how long did it take you to really kind of realize that this was working?
3, maybe the 4th test,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, because it was like at the beginning, it's like this new shiny thing and everybody's pumped about it. Second time around, kind of the same thing. They like know what to expect, but they want to improve. But traction really, but the numbers don't lie either, right? Because you're constantly studying your metrics, but it takes that long. It takes 6, 9, 12 months to actually see you changed this thing, you overhauled this thing. Did it work? Well, you're not going to know right away. You have to see people coming in. But yeah, three or 4 tests in was when it's like, all right, this is real. This is cool.
So what are some takeaways from people that may be asking me, like, I need to leverage, this is a question I got last week. I need to leverage Level Method to make more money. I'm putting you on the spot here.
I would question why you're thinking about it that way in the first place. I actually would zoom way out. Okay. Lead generation is designed to make you more money. It's a definite ROI. Level Method is more like long tail ROI. So if you're kind of this, you want the quick thing right away, the Level Method really isn't a solution for you. But if you change your thinking about it and it's not like that, remember that it's an engagement tool. So if you can make your members more engaged, can you measure that? Really? Not really, because it's an emotion. But we're all emotional beings and we're driven by emotion. So does that emotion lead to them wanting to come to more class and use more of your service? Almost 100%, it's going to be yes. So just wait for your long tail ROI. And then here's another thing that I've learned very, very much the hard way. This is a system that I overhauled totally. Fix, after you've done that and you've been running it for 6-9 months, look at each piece and only fix one thing at a time, because you don't actually know where the hole is. So if you're not talking about Level Method in session 1, but you are talking about it in session 5 and 6, analyze that. before you scrap the whole thing and look at something else, because maybe the way that you're talking about it, when you're talking about it, the frequency of talking about it isn't resonating for some reason. So, I mean, that comes from me as a strength coach, right? I coach a lot of weightlifters. If we're going to fix a snatch and they've been doing it a while, we like overhaul their technique. We're not going to re-overhaul their technique every 3 months. We're going to look at their first pull, then getting up, you know what I mean?
I do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's really good advice. I think a lot of people actually expect very, very quick return on everything. It's you turn it on, you flip a switch, and there's so much involved, like personal story, but just kind of put a pin in this point is I read a book called Breathe. And I don't know if you've read it yet, but it's all about breathing.
I have it on my Audible. It's on my list.
So I get through this book and I decide, okay, my wife's having trouble because I've been snoring a lot. I've developed this snoring. I'm getting somewhere with this story. So I get through the book. I'm doing breathing every day, a specific type of breathing every day, and Wim Hof every day. Like I've always thought, I've been doing Wim Hof for a while. And I'm mouth taping, and I have a mouth guard, and I'm using Breathe Right strips. And I've been tracking my snoring since it started, and I'm down to 0 snoring.
It's awesome.
No clue which one did it.
Exactly.
So now I'm going back and removing one item, and like deduction. I don't know if that's the best way, but it's better to to change one thing at a time and see where you get. I guess is the whole point of that long story. But
totally.
Yeah. But,
and to confirm it, we shared a hotel room one time, and that was some pretty epic snoring. The whole floor, I'm pretty sure.
This wasn't supposed to be embarrassing for me, but you can happens in the future. You can rest assured I've got it nailed down. So my wife is extremely happy. So with Level Method, did you do any clinics based on your avatar? Because you brought that up, the avatar, your overall like gym avatar. You can look and see, oh, this is the biggest weakness. Like, did you use any of those tools to kind of guide what you're doing? Because you're a big lifting gym, a lot of Olympic lifting type stuff. Did you?
All the time.
Yeah.
So actually, when I started Level Method, this was a mistake. And maybe it's not a mistake. I don't know. We'll see. I think it's a mistake in retrospect. There was no Level Method programming. This was before that. I used the gym avatar to bias the group program. So it was like we were weak in rings. So in the next 6 weeks in the group program, I put a bunch of rings in. Here's why I think it was a mistake. Not everybody gave a crap about the rings being their weakness, right? But the ones that did, I could have made revenue off of them doing personal training. But instead, I said, oh, that's in the class. Just come to class. So that's why I think it was a mistake. But yeah, we use the gym avatar every single testing cycle to plan clinics for the next several weeks. Weightlifting specifically, though, we didn't just, let's say we came up with Blue 2 in weightlifting in the avatar. We didn't just do a Blue clinic because I like to be more advanced than that. So we would do a high level one and a lower level one. We would do a brown only clinic and then like a blue or orange clinic. And we would kind of meet both of them. But they're 2 different clinics. And that's really the cool part about the Level Method. Because when you see a flyer on your wall, your gym, and it says this clinic is for this athlete, it's calling that person out. So you're marketing within your members, right? So if you think about when you guys are doing your ads and stuff like that, you're probably calling out like, hey, my area. And then whatever you do for the people that you help, it's usually busy people or something like that. Now you're doing it micro and you're doing it within your gym. So it's like, you want to get better at weightlifting. Well, this one's only for brown. So it's wildly powerful. They have to sign up. It's too compelling.
Yeah, it is too compelling, but it's really compelling, but it also gets rid of what I would imagine a lot of men worrying about, like, am I going to be good enough? So if you're doing a pull-up clinic, great, but you're going to have people that go from hardly being able to do ring rows to people who want to do butterfly, and you can't manage that. And then if you do butterfly kipping pull-up or whatever, I mean, you're like, it's too subjective. There's too many like floating variables out there. And then you might get somebody that has no right doing a kipping pull-up showing up for that clinic. And then you're stuck with that. So what happens is when you say, okay, I got a ton of yellows, and we can do this now in the grid view. I got a ton of yellows and pull up. Obviously, I need to look at what the skill is that they want to reach, would want to reach, and say, this is for you, yellows. And just target them. Like you said, you're defining your market. You're really whittling it down. Now you've taken that fear away from that person that they're going to be stuck with someone who's wanting to work on butterflies, or everyone's going to be better than them, or everyone's going to suck and they're going to be left just working on sucky stuff. That's a dialogue that goes through people's heads. They're going to come up with that dialogue's going to run and come up with all sorts of excuses not to engage in whatever you're doing. So by defining it like that, it is super compelling. And I'm glad you found that.
100%. Yeah, it's easier for the coach too. I've been that coach leading that pull-up clinic where I have everyone in the spectrum. It's a nightmare.
Yeah, me too.
So it's when it's highly focused, it's you help the people more because they get more focused attention, and then you don't rip all your hair out.
Yeah, and I think another really good approach. I don't know, have you ever done it where you've said, hey, look, here's a program, stick with it for this long and you will level up? Have you ever done that?
Yes, but it's more in my individual design programs where it's like, if you do this for 8 weeks, you absolutely will level up.
Yeah. I was thinking like you have a yellow clinic, you do this clinic, and then you give them the supplementary programming, and then 4 weeks later, they all come back together and they can assess. You can do an assessment. It's another idea that has gone out there, and I'm sure some people have done it. It just takes a lot of planning, and not a lot of planning, actually. It just takes some marketing within your own group. So
that's a great idea. I never had it where they came back after 4 weeks. Yeah, that's awesome. I would do it. That's awesome.
Yeah. Because then you're showing them, hey, look, we're going to do this. Here's what you need to work on. Now, if you were to just say, hey, it's going to be $100. I'm going to give you can come work out, or I'm going to come show you some things, and then I'm going to give you a program. Well, when does that drop off? If you had like TrueCoach, you can track that, right? And usually like halfway through, you see less and less of the workouts getting done. And then maybe you've seen this already with some of your clients, then it just trickles down. Well, are they going to come back to another clinic again, or do another supplemental or accessory programming with you again, pay $100 to do it again? Probably not as likely, because they didn't follow through. Now, if you want to develop a program where they came in, you taught them the skill, you gave them the work for 4 weeks, and said in 4 weeks, we're all going to come back together. We're going to review and we're going to assess. There's going to be probably a lot more work sandwiched in between that front and end load. And then the proof's in the pudding. Like then you as the owner can go in and say on your Facebook group or whatever, hey, so-and-so, all these people signed up, and then show like their level changes. Or hopefully everyone levels up, which is usually likely if they're engaged. So there's a lot of power in that. So I guess I just threw in my own ideas.
Awesome. Great ideas. I love it.
So anything else you want to say about I have a question. How do you get people to goal setting sessions? I hear this all the time. There are goal reviews or whatever. Like I can't get people to engage. And you're telling me you did Zoom, you did in person. How do you set the stage for that?
Okay. I struggle with this, but it's only with a certain type of client. All right. First thing, email out right after testing or whenever you're doing them. I would always batch all my goal reviews in like a 3-week period. I know some gym owners, they like to spread them out. I like to just get them all through. So email goes out with scheduling link and Facebook. Also, it's in our briefing slide on the digital display. The coach every single day for 3 weeks is saying, did you book your call with Coach Brian or whoever's running it? So here's what happens every single time. Your loudest members, they're all going to book in the first week. It's great. Then you have like your next layer, which they take a personal conversation in the class. It's not just an email. It's not just Facebook. It's not just the digital display. Hey, John, did you book your goal review with me? No, I didn't. Well, I'd really like to talk to you. This second layer person needs, they want to know that you're not just blasting an email. They want to be reached out to individually. Third layer, I don't care. I don't need a goal review. I'm good. All right, cool. Why don't we just have lunch or grab a beer? All right, sweet. And then you invite that person to have lunch, have a beer, or coffee if they don't drink. And then you can connect with them on that level. And maybe you're not bringing up all the levels of level method, but you're checking in with them. And if it comes up, they bring that up. So that's a really good question, but it's usually just because you probably didn't try hard enough. You put out one email and not everybody signed up for the goal review. That's just not enough. It needs to be in their face all the time. And then, we took my systematic approach to it. Yeah, that's my answer.
I like that. I think a lot of people miss the idea that usually when we want something, it's just like sales. We've got to expose it to them over and over and over and over again. You can't just throw it out there once and expect everybody to grab a hold of it. The other thing I love about what you said is that people they speak different languages. They have different motivations. So you need to find the different ways to motivate. Like, I love that you said that you would catch them in person and let them know that I actually care about you. This is important to me. It's not just some blanketed thing I'm doing. Okay, now you've hooked that social emotional thing that's important to them. Then that last layer is like, hey, let's hang out. We're that person. And so it's finding the right hooks to get them in. And you can do a goal review session without them ever knowing you really did. Like you said, it's like, let's have a beer and you will talk about it because you're a gym owner, you're a coach. It's going to happen. That's what you guys do together. You work out, you guide them through their strength and conditioning training. So I think that's phenomenal. What would you say your percentage of goal reviews? I mean, did you hit the 50% mark with your members?
Oh yeah. It was probably 80% every time. Yeah. But it was, me, Scott, I have an Excel sheet.
Yep.
And I'm checking off these boxes. Like, people that haven't booked it yet, I'm ramping up efforts towards the end of week 3 to get them in. And those are usually the people that maybe they were out of town or whatever. But when I'm telling them, like, I want to sit down with you, they're usually like, oh, okay, it's Brian. Like, that's cool. I'll do it. And it's like, it's not weird or anything. And the ones that are just grab a beer or a coffee, it's just a good time to hang out and catch up. It's okay. You don't need, like I said before, you don't need to go into this like it's a sales encounter, right? And that's the other powerful thing. If you do these things without it being a sales encounter in your mind, then the member is going to know that you actually care about them, because they're not just a dollar sign. So, and okay, I guess I should preface this with, you actually need to care.
and if you don't, assign somebody on your staff who does.
Yes. If you're burned out and you don't give a crap about your members anymore, you're not the person to do these. Right. You actually need to give a crap about their progress.
Yeah. That's really important. It can't go without saying. It just can't.
Right.
There are people out there burned out. And if you're one of them, find someone else. There's someone else. It's like I say with kids programs. If you have no intention or desire to have a kids program, if you have a staff member who does, let it happen, let go, and let it thrive on its own with that person. So same with goal reviews. I hear this all the time it's like pulling teeth. I can't get them. And I think the trick here is the message you gave is that this multifaceted approach, as well as tracking. Now, you are a spreadsheet guy. I have become a spreadsheet guy. 6 years ago, I would have said, no, hell no. I hate spreadsheets. They're stupid. I don't know how to do them. Once I learned and then I put some systems into place, I don't almost do any type of project without a spreadsheet, because it keeps everything where and it doesn't have to be complicated. I color code. I love color coding, but like as soon as someone schedules, it's yellow. And as soon as they're done, it's green. And I'm like looking for green for my whole screen. And I would say find someone that can help you do that, because that's huge. Tracking that stuff, it's like tracking your workouts. Why do you do it? So you can know where you've been and where you're going and where to go next.
Their CRM will probably do it. I was just a spreadsheet guy, and then it's probably one of the easiest tasks. If you're one of the owners that's like, I don't want to be in the weeds, this is one of the easiest things to hand off, because you just have an admin. Did the person schedule their goal review? Yes or no? If
Right.
it's yes, then we're green. We're good to go. If it's no, then we're going to follow up with them. It's very easy to hand this off. But it will get escalated to you if you're like I was, and you are a face in the gym, which I think most gym owners are. They're not just this Oz operating from some other state or something like that. They're in the gym. The members actually want to talk to them. So when it gets escalated to that, you go talk to the member. That means even more.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think people would see a ton of success getting more people involved in this process. And did you start it from the beginning? Like when they signed up, it was kind of an expectation. It was kind of a practice put in place right away.
See, if we rewind, and that was one of the things that we overhauled, right? Because after their last personal training session before group or whatever we're doing, even if they're just personal training, we're doing the check-in. And from the very beginning, we're establishing the expectation that this is going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just part of who we are and what we do. Absolutely.
Right.
So it's really hard if you've been operating for 10 years and you've never done it. And maybe it's, you start with the new folks and work on the other ones. Now, if you've been in business for 10 years and they're still there, retention's probably pretty good, but you never want to leave anything to chance. I mean, why leave something out of your control when you can have a little more influence on it? Right on, man. Do you have anything else you want to add about like client retention, goal setting reviews, level method?
No, that was pretty good.
Yeah.
That's from a systems standpoint. Now you guys got to actually do the work.
Right. That's right. That's right. Thank you very much, Brian. Always fun to talk with you. Always fun to hear how your brain works. And I think this is going to provide a ton of value to those that listen.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. Good luck, everybody.